What's going on, guys? This is Bourbon and Ball. We got week 15 must starts, maybe some must sits, and some great sleepers for hitting and pitching. You're not going to want to miss this one. All right, man. We're rocking and rolling with week 15 here. Bourbon and Ball, Mikey V. I'm Doug. Let's just jump right into it. We got week 15. Again, some really good pitching matchups on here. And then some not so good pitching matchups, I would say. But let's just start with the fun stuff first. So let me go over who we got, and then Mikey V will break it down a little bit. Excuse me. I'm going to clear my throat for all this excitement. So we have, first and foremost, Philly starting pitcher Christopher Sanchez. Monday at Kansas City against the Royals. Saturday at Detroit against the Tigers. Stellar year, right? 10-3, 117 innings pitched, 136 strikeouts, 23 walks, a 2 ERA. He's giving you 18.3 a start. His last start versus Pittsburgh was pretty much a get-right start because he was, he gave up a few runs the last start prior to that. 2 earned at Toronto, 4 earned at the Brewers, 5 earned at the Nationals. So it looks like he might have righted the ship. So this is actually probably my favorite 2-start pitcher of this week, I would say, because they're pretty easy matchups as far as what they have for offense. Next up, I got Giants starting pitcher Robbie Ray. Thursday, he's at home versus the Rockies. 8-6, a 3.4 ERA. He's giving you an even 10 a start. Not too bad. Last start was at Colorado. He won 6 innings. He did have a couple strikeouts, gave you 18.88 points. He's been pretty good. He's been on fire, right? 4-0 in his last 4 starts. All 4 starts, quality starts. Gave up 3 earned combined. Those 3 earned came against the Rockies at Colorado. Now he's home, away from Colorado. I think if he can beat them in Colorado, he can beat them at home. I do like him with this matchup. And then this one's you're probably going to have to monitor if you do own Shohei Ohtani. Friday, he's going to be at home versus the Diamondbacks. Great year, 8-2, 85 innings pitched, 95 strikeouts, a 1.7 ERA. He's giving you 19.5 a start, which is insane. Last start against the Pirates, got the no decision, gave up 3 earned, 6 innings, 13 points. The thing that surprises me with Ohtani was – and this is why he's day-to-day. So Dave Roberts comes in and he says on record that the days he pitches, he'll more than likely not bat. Well, he pitched Friday. Of course, he batted, and during his at-bat, he experienced a little bicep pain. Now he's day-to-day. He had a similar injury a couple months ago. He'll need to be monitored. I feel like his body at some point might break down. It's kind of taking its toll. You can't. It's impossible to do day in and day out for all the games and how long the season is. But I'd watch how this plays out. If he does make this last start before the All-Star break, obviously a must start because he is at home. Next up, I got Brewers starting pitcher Jacob Misiorowski. Tuesday at St. Louis against the Cards. Sunday at Pittsburgh against the Pirates. Great year. I mean, 9-4, 104 innings pitched, 156 strikeouts. We're talking about 300 strikeout guy right now. 1.47 ERA. He's giving you 19.3 a start, 327 points. So last couple starts, not too bad, right? 1-1, 11 innings pitched, 18 strikeouts, 2 earned, 4 walks, 31 points. That was versus the Cubs at home and then versus the Reds at home. I think this guy is a machine right now. I think fantasy owners should be riding the wave. I think the real debate is going to begin this second half when that innings cap conversation comes into play. You know, last year he pitched a career high 129 in the third innings. He currently has 104. We're talking about 4 starts right now, which could separate him and his career high, just 4. I think realistically you want to see him go 155, 160 innings pitched. And if we average that out, 6 innings a start, it's about 10 starts. So the coaching staff will have a real tough decision to make to that point. And I think fantasy owners need to come to the realization, too, that this guy might not be there for you come the last few weeks of your fantasy season and maybe especially the playoffs. It's what I always say. He'll get you to the dance, but he's going to leave you there. Still a great matchup this upcoming week. If he does make two, I don't know. I feel like at some point the Brewers might want to skip some here and there. I think this would be a really good time to maybe do that against the Reds later on. Not the Reds, against Pittsburgh on Sunday. Maybe give him that extra off day. But right now, he's in line for two. Roll with him either way if he's a 1 or a 2 start. And then last but not least, I do have Rangers starting pitcher Nathan Eovaldi Thursday versus the Angels at home. 9-7, 105 innings pitched, 110 strikeouts, 24 walks, a 4 ERA, 4.02 to be exact. Not too bad, giving you 12.6 a start. Last 2 starts, he made the hot list Friday on fire. 2-0, 12 innings pitched, 18 strikeouts, 3 earned. Gave you 45.76 points. He was at Toronto against the Blue Jays. Then he was at home versus the Tigers. 4-0 in his last 4 starts. I think the trend continues. I think he makes it 5-0. Team is pretty hot right now. I like him.
Hey, like you said, we just talked about him on Friday, and he's been phenomenal for that Texas Rangers team. First place Texas Rangers team, must add. But yeah, ride the dog out, right? Ride the Nate dog out. He's going to be a strong start against the Angels. Like you said, Jacob Misiorowski, like you said, he might get you to the dance, but is he going to be there after? That's why those like veteran starting pitchers usually are more attractive toward the end of the year, like the Chris Sales of the world, like the Garrett Coles of the world, because you know they're going to get stretched out. You know they're going to be there at the end. With these young guys like a Jacob Misiorowski and the Chase Burns, we don't know where they're going to be in September when playoff time come around, right? So great call out there. Great start this week. He's a must start any week, right? He's #1 pitcher in fantasy baseball. But this week, just definitely more appealing. 2 starts. Let's go, right? Shohei Ohtani, I don't know. What's going on with Shohei Doug? It's kind of been back and forth with him lately with the hitting and the pitching, and then now the injuries are creeping up. So they're going to reevaluate him, as I think as a whole, he's probably not going to be hitting anymore as he pitches. I know they were trying to get away from that originally, but they just couldn't. He still does it. But I think now with the second half coming up, I think maybe you restrict that a little bit, especially with the injuries popping up. So again, like you said, great thing to monitor this week with Ohtani. And then Christopher Sanchez, like you said, again, if Misiorowski is not the best pitcher, it's probably Christopher Sanchez. Like you said, he'd take that turn now. Had a couple clunkers in there. Now it looks like he's back to his old self, Cy Young self, right? So again, another great start. But I do want to end with Robbie Ray. I think Robbie Ray right now just beat Colorado last night on Saturday, 6 innings, 3 earned, 3 Ks, playing against Colorado again. And look, Doug, I think this could be his last start. Very potentially could be his last start with the Giants. I think this guy could be moved in the next coming weeks. He is so attractive when it comes to his contract, his veteran leadership, and there's a lot of teams that need him right now for that. The Giants aren't going anywhere at this point, and maybe this is the time to go buy a Robbie Ray because he's going to be there pitching for a competitive team for you in the fantasy playoffs. So I think right now is the smash button to buy him when you can, because maybe in a couple of weeks when he does get moved, who knows where he's going to go, and that value might skyrocket all of a sudden. So I'm buying in on Robbie Ray as well.
Yeah, I do like that's a good call. And we are going to talk about that Giants team in a little while. So yeah, let's just dive into some tough matchups for the week for some of these starting pitchers. I do have Paul Skenes on here again. I did bench him last week. I'm glad I benched him last week. He went 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, 7 earned, gave you -5 points at Philly. Now he's playing Tuesday. Yeah, both starts are at home. It's against the Braves and the Brewers, though. So 2 very good teams. Numbers aren't Skenes just like, but again, I mean, this is what his second full year in the league now. I mean, it's tough to compare and contrast for only like 2 full years, but a 3.6 ERA is giving you a 10.4 start. I mean, those are some really tough numbers. Not the guy you drafted one of the top 3 pitchers overall. We had him up here, like I said, last week at Philly. I did bench him. I think as an owner with the 2 starts, I might look to bench him again. He just looks out of sync. 0-6 in his last 9 starts. Here's the kicker: 47 innings pitched, 63 strikeouts, which is attractive, 28 earned. He was a hard luck loser on some of those. I know he went 5 1/3, gave up a run, 10 strikeouts, got the loss. Went 6 innings, 2 earned, 10 strikeouts, got the loss. Got 6 innings, 2 earned, 8 strikeouts. Saddled with the loss on all 3 of those. That's tough. You know, I like to think him in this drought, going up against a very hot Phillies team was just a perfect storm for him to get rocked, which is why I did bench him. But I still wouldn't hate him with these two matchups if you did decide to, and just keep him on your bench until he figures something out. That's what I would do. Next up, I got Yankees starting pitcher Will Warren. Tuesday against the Rays, Sunday against the Nationals. 73, 89 innings pitched, 91 strikeouts, a 3.70 ERA, 10.4 to start. Last start. Gave you 7 points, got the no decision against the Tigers at home, 5 1/3, 2 earned. 0-2 in his last 3. Hasn't given you a quality starting over 5. I think that trend continues versus this lineup. And the theme really is going to be grinding lineups as far as like grinding pitchers out. And Tampa Bay, I think, is one of those lineups that really do grind pitchers. So I do think that's that. And in the Nationals, they kind of do too. I mean, yeah, a lot of swing and miss out there, but man, I'll tell you, when they connect, they connect. Very fun team to watch. Mm-hmm. I do have the Pirates starting pitcher, relief pitcher Braxton Ashcroft here, Friday versus the Brewers. So he is going to be at home against a good Brewers team. 9-3, 180 innings pitched, 122 strikeouts, a 3.2 ERA. He's giving you 14.4 start. I mean, he's good, right? 5 2/3, 7 strikeouts, 1 earned, 18 points against the Nationals in Washington. 4-0 in his last 4. I think he's going up against a very hard Brewers team, and he has given up 4 home runs in the last 2. Gave up 3 to Philly, and he probably should have gotten that loss. He gave up 5 earned, but luckily that Pittsburgh offense bailed him out, which usually that's not the case. So I just see this matchup, and it just tells me that Ashcroft is really going to grind this. And, maybe around 5 2/3 is a similar outcome for this against the Brewers. And then I do have, speaking of Brewers, their starting pitcher, Kyle Harrison, Wednesday at the Cardinals in St. Louis. Good year for him, right? 8-2, 79 innings, 99 strikeouts, 13.6 a start. I mean, he pitched in Arizona his last start, only gave you 1.2 points. He got a no decision, went 2 2/3, 3 strikeouts, 3 earned. I mean, not a great start on the road versus a kind of Diamondbacks offense. Still didn't get saddled with the loss. It's amazing what happens when you pitch behind a great offense, like I just said, with Ashcroft and the Pirates. However, he's going up against a red-hot Cardinals team in St. Louis. I mean, Harrison, he doesn't pitch particularly well away, as you can see from his last start. I think that trend might continue. I mean, the Cardinals is another team that really grinds pitchers. And then last but not least, Guardians starting pitcher Gavin Williams, Thursday at Minnesota, 9-4, 106 innings pitched, 123 strikeouts, 3.89 ERA, giving you 12.7 a start. His last start was a no decision, didn't even give you 5. Gave you 4 2/3, 6 strikeouts, 3 earned, 2 walked, 5 points versus the White Sox. He was at home. 0-1 in his last 5. Hasn't gone deeper than 5 1/3 in 6 starts and counting. Although he didn't look terrible against the White Sox, I'd expect the same type of grind against the Twins, who are surprisingly still in the hunt, right? They're around like 5 games out of first in the Central. It's extremely competitive 3-team race there. And there are these are the games that really matter if you want to make a run. So I don't know. I think I might bench Williams. I would consider it. I mean, as much as the Twins have been hot, and we're going to talk about one of their players that could be a really good sleeper later on. But yeah, they're still in the thick of it, which is surprising considering it's kind of like a Punch and Judy lineup, to be honest with you.
Yeah, especially with Jose Ramirez out of that lineup, it's just been a different kind of identity with them. I mean, talk about a great landing spot for Robbie Ray, right? Going to Cleveland, they need a veteran pitcher in there, really stabilize the rotation. Because they, like you said, they got these young guys in there right now. And I think the theme of this list too, Doug, is guys that were overperforming in April, May, even into June as well. And now you're starting to see some of that fatigue come in. So like a Gavin Williams coming out hot, striking out a lot of batters early on. Now you're starting to see him not go 6 innings anymore. It's a lot of 5-inning outings, a lot of 3, 4 earned outings, right? So he's kind of taking a step back a little bit. Kyle Harrison getting knocked down a little bit. I'm hoping that's a one-off, but it's something to keep an eye on just because, again, he doesn't have a lot of innings under his belt in his whole career at this point. So we're going to see how he does the second half. Will Warren, same exact thing, really. Not a lot of innings under his belt. Pitches very, very well in the first half of the year. But now we're starting to see some of these clunkers come around. Same thing with Braxton Ashcroft. Like you said, 5 earned runs against Philly, still gets the win, I mean, great for fantasy owners, right? But it's just one of those things we're going to have to keep a pulse on. He is actually, I think, the number one reliever when it comes to points leagues, just because he's been so on fire. He's getting those backdoor wins, like you said. Is that going to last in the second half? I'm not really sure. Against the Brewers this week, not really buying it. Again, it's really tough because you rely on him almost every single week, but you're going to have to really play the mismatch games at times. And I think Milwaukee is definitely one of them this week. And then Paul Skenes, just the mysterious case of Paul Skenes, Doug. What are we going to do with Paul Skenes? I mean, he is turning into and it's going to sound a little insulting, he's turning into a glorified Dylan Cease, where Dylan Cease throws a lot of pitches early on. He gets the strikeouts early on. But right now, Toronto's not scoring a ton of runs either. So he's not getting those win opportunities because of one of two ways. They're not getting enough run support, or he's just not going deep enough into games to get that opportunity. Paul Skenes is slowly falling into this category where he's not going deep enough and not pitching well enough to get these wins, even though the strikeouts might be there and even some of his innings and some of these outings are still there. But against the Braves and against the Brewers, really two tough matchups. It's really tough to swallow that pill and say, hey, I got to not start Paul Skenes. I got to put him on my bench this week. But the way he's been performing, it's not the same guy that he was last year, where he was going out there getting 7 innings, 9, 10 Ks, almost every other start. That's just not the same guy we're talking about anymore. So you're going to have to proceed with caution with Paul Skenes.
It's interesting. It maybe he's just like putting too much pressure on himself. Maybe he's just overthrowing. That's the only thing I can really think of. Like, his stuff is there. He still throws hard. It's just he like his last couple of starts, location, right? And that's what's going to make or break a pitcher at any point. So I wonder if maybe it's just of a mental thing of just, okay, you know what? I have not been good the last 8 starts. I need to come on. I need to pick this up. I need to pick this up. And it's just putting so much pressure on himself that it's causing him to not succeed, really,
That, and I also think I would be remiss to say, Doug, that I think the CBA deal with MLB and potentially restricting these contracts and him trying to overperform, because I think he wants a big deal before all that unfolds, unfortunately. And he's not in a position right now because he plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they don't just hand out money like some of these other teams do to their young core guys. Paul Skenes still waiting for that big contract. So maybe he's thinking of that too a little bit. I got to make sure that I stay at this elite level, so I make this $600 million contract. And, every start that kind of goes by, it makes you kind of think, is that really going to be the price point for Paul Skenes moving forward? So I think there's a lot going on in his head right now. I think there's a lot going on.
Yeah, the contract stuff is a good call. Really good call on that part. So let's jump into lineups here. All right. Obviously, you're going to start most of these. You're going to start your studs, right? But a lot of these guys, I think, have really good matchups. You might want to go out and stream maybe a couple other bats if you're looking for them. And obviously, first and foremost, the Dodgers. Let's get 3 games. They're at home all 6. 3 versus Colorado at home. 3 versus the Diamondbacks at home. 8-2 in the last 10. They're kind of running away with the division, up by 14 games. I mean, they're facing like Kyle Freeland, Michael Lorenzen, Ryan Feltner, JRod, probably the most decent pitcher this week that they'll face, but Zach Gallen, Brandon Paft. I mean, you got to roll with them. I mean, at least 75% of that lineup, if you don't own them, at least pick it up. I mean, God, Teoscar Hernandez hit a grand slam the other day. And then the Brewers, we just talked about it. They have 8 games. You're talking about not only playing all 7, they have a doubleheader Tuesday against the Cardinals. So I know they're not going to be home, but you're talking about getting another extra at bat for some of these guys, which, I mean, who knows? You're talking about a home run, 6 or 7 points extra. Could be the difference between you winning or losing a week in weekly leagues. 5 games at St. Louis against the Cardinals, 3 games at Pittsburgh against the Pirates. So, like I said, Tuesday doubleheader with the Cards, 6-4 in the last 10, up by 6 games to the Cubs, 6.5 to the Cardinals. But I mean, they're going up against Michael McGreevy, Dustin May's day to day, so that might be a bullpen day. Andre Palente, Kyle Lee, no one's scheduled for the last game of the series, so that might even be a bullpen game. Then you got Ashcroft, Bubba Chandler, Paul Skenes. So I do like the matchups. I do like the extra at-bats. So I do like the Milwaukee Brewers. The Braves coming up. They got 7 games. They got 1 at home versus the Mets, 3 against the Pirates, and then 3 in St. Louis versus the Cardinals, 4-6 in their last 10. Still first by just 3 games to the Phillies, though. But they should have, and their current series right now against the Mets, it looks like they're going to win that series. And their bats, the last 2 or 3 games, kind of look like they've looked woken up. LB's hit a home run. Matt Olson had the 2 home runs a couple days ago. Maybe they're finally turning that page. Maybe they're turning the corner. They're waking up. So I do like them this week. Freddie Peralta, yeah. Then you got Paul Skenes. Jared Jones is day-to-day. That might be a bullpen game. Mitch Keller, Matt Liebertor, Mike McGreevy, Dustin May, again, day-to-day. That could be another bullpen day. So, out of all those, obviously Freddie Peralta, you don't know what you're getting in Paul Skenes. Then I have the Chicago White Sox. You got to give them love, man. 5-5 in 10 games, but tied for first with the Guardians. They're at home all 6 games versus the Red Sox, 3 games there versus the Athletics, 3 games there. And honestly, it's a hodgepodge of pitching they're going to see, right? Peyton Tolley, Jake Bennett, and then Connor Early was supposed to start. So that will probably be a bullpen game that they'll see. Aaron Cavale, Gage Jump, Jeffrey Springs, that's a time where I would probably start a couple extra Chicago White Sox teams. And then the Giants, we just talked about them, 3 games versus Toronto at home, 4 games versus the Rockies at home. Yeah, 5-5, last 10, pretty much out of everything, 11 games out of the wild card. They did win back-to-back series a few weeks ago, right? They beat the Braves and then the Athletics. But I do like them this week. Kevin Gausman, then they might see a bullpen game. No one's assigned to game 2 of the 3-game series. Then they see Dylan Cease. Then they have nobody assigned against the Rockies for the first game, so that could be a bullpen game. Then they're seeing Tanner Gordon, Kyle Freeman, Michael Lorenzen. I mean, I'm a little more hesitant about, the strikeouts with Gausman and maybe even Dylan Cease, but once you get to the last 4 games of the first half against the Rockies, you let them fly. If you're in a daily league, that's when you would probably pick up, the Casey Schmitz and all those guys and maybe play them against the Rockies at home. But still a tough matchup, really tough for all these teams.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing the Rockies this weekend, Doug, and they're looking pretty good so far. And like you said, it's the Casey Schmitz of the world. It's the Lees of the world. Even Devers is getting into the action. So it seems like they got a really good grasp on the Rockies this year. And, great matchup for 4 games at the end of the week. I'm all about that. The White Sox, man, who's coming around again is Colson Montgomery. He hit a home run yesterday again. He's at 22. You could even argue he was an all-star snub. He's been really kind of like their little unsung hero in that lineup day in, day out, with Murakami out, and then also just being around all these other young players that are just really producing. So looks like the White Sox are here to stay. They got great matchups this week. Like you said, Boston having some injuries. We don't know if Jay Conley's the real deal yet or not. He pitched well, what was that, last night, I believe. But we still don't know what the whole scope of him is yet. But, again, great matchups. Don't be hesitant to start White Sox players. Who would have thought we've been saying that on July, 5th today as we record this? Incredible.
Yeah.
But let's go back to that NL East, right? Atlanta Braves. They're looking good again, Doug. They're looking great. And it's not just those main guys like you said, right? Durbin's playing really good outfield for them so far. He's actually showing up this weekend. Even Austin Riley had a 2-run, 3-run home run yesterday. Like, who would have thought this guy was going to turn it back around? I think it was only his 9th of the year. But if that whole team is on full cylinders, you and I both know how good that team can be. So, again, it looks like they're at that point. They're playing some kind of dumpster fire teams with their pitching matchups. So, again, if you got those Braves players, you put them in those lineups this week, 100%. Same thing with Milwaukee Brewers. Those guys have been killing it. Like you said, those extra at-bats with some of those players are going to make a difference. Even Jackson Cherio last night, Saturday night, he comes in, pinch hit, hits a home run. That's all it takes for 1 at-bat, 2 at-bats, 3 at-bats extra for you to get more fantasy points. And guys like Jackson Cherio, Bryce Terrain, even Christian Yelich, who's back. it's important to have those extra at bats throughout the week, and those guys are more likely to help you, not hurt you. There are definitely guys in other lineups that would probably hurt you at times, but we're talking about the Milwaukee Brewers. They're a very good baseball team, so they're going to probably help you more than hurt you with those extra at bats. And then, I mean, same old song and dance, Doug, with the Dodgers. I mean, these guys are just going to be playing at an eclipse all the way through September. Like you said, Teoscar Hernandez hit a grand slam the other night, which was great to see. He's been kind of up and down this year for that lineup at this point. But with the matchups that they got with the Rockies and Arizona, I mean, I feel like this is a smash. I feel like they're all cylinders a go, and you just got to ride them out right now. Even Mookie Betts has turned that corner from that really, really bad start that he had at the beginning of the year, and he's starting to look like Mookie Betts again. Freddie Freeman turning back the clock, looking great
yesterday. Yeah.
I mean, just an incredible lineup still. So do not hesitate to start those guys, including even Tommy Edman. Let's just throw the name out there.
I did pick him up.
You did? See?
I did.
He's been playing really good baseball.
He has. Well, he's done that before, though. He did that last year. Remember the first 2 months of the year? He came out hot, hit the IL, came back, got really, really cold. Now he's back from the IL, and he's red hot. He's going to see his playing time. There's no doubt about that. You know, even if maybe they do decide to rest Ohtani toward the end of the week, you know, which kind of makes sense. That would open up a DH spot. Maybe you throw in like a Teoscar Hernandez in there. You put Tommy Edman in the outfield. I mean, he is outfield, second base, maybe even shortstop eligible, I think. So, you know, I mean, that versatility is always really good. And if you're not producing in the Dodgers lineup, then you're not going to produce anywhere. So I did pick him up. I don't know if I'm going to start him. I'm going to have to see, because I did have a couple IL hits that we'll talk about later on that I got dinged with this week. So, but yeah, I did pick him up. That's a good call.
Yeah, guys, red hot. Got to ride him out.
All right. So let's talk about some tough matchups. And we already said how the Rockies are going to have a tough matchup. So obviously they did make this list as well. But let's just start from the top. Again, there's no rhyme or reason for this. It's just there's just 5 teams. They're not ranked. We talked about the Arizona Diamondbacks. 4 games at San Diego against the Padres. 3 games at LA against the Dodgers. 5-5 in the last 10. 15 games out of first for the division. There's still only 4 out of the wild card, you know, but they'll see Walker Buehler. They have nobody assigned for game 2, but then Michael King, Griffin Canning, Ohtani's day-to-day. So that's something to monitor. But then they'll see Yamamoto. They'll see Emma Sheehan, who looked really good his last start. So, you know, there are some – I'm not saying they'll lose every single game next week. Don't get me wrong. I do think they have some really good winnable games. Maybe they could maybe beat Emmett Sheehan. But if Ohtani and Yamamoto are gone out there healthy, I don't think they would win those games. And then, you know, Michael King and that Padres team, it's hit or miss. But not being in Arizona, being in San Diego and in Los Angeles, I think that would just be a little tough for them. And then the Athletics, you know, 3 games at Detroit against the Tigers, 3 games, talked about the White Sox in Chicago. I think for them, they've lost 2 of the cogs in that lineup, in the middle of that lineup, with Wilson and Soderstrom on the IL. I think that really, really hurts the lineup, and you can see that 3-7 the last 10, fading in the standings, 4.5 out of the division, still only 4 out of the wild card, but it doesn't help. You're going to see Skubal, you're going to see Troy Melton. You know, Framber Valdez, for all he's worth, he does come out and pitch decent once in a while. I think this could be one of those once in a whiles. Sean Burke, 11 strikeouts yesterday. Can we talk about how we had him as a sleeper last week, a 2-start sleeper? He comes out and he looks amazing. Didn't get any wins last week. Looked amazing. Didn't get any wins, which is the most ridiculous thing. But 11 strikeouts, quality start yesterday. He looks great. Eric Fetty, he's all right. Noah Schultz, they're all right. But again, I mean, this Athletics offense is really struggling without these guys that bat, you know, 3rd and 4th or sometimes 4th and 5th in their lineup. So they've taken a beating. And this one, I know, hear me out, Tampa Bay Rays, right? 9-1 in their last 10, first in the division by 4. But before the streak, they did lose a series to the Rays, the Dodgers, and the Angels back to back to back. So 4 games at home versus the Yankees, 3 games against Seattle at home still. But Cam Schlittler, Garrett Cole's going to be there. They do have a bullpen game. No one's really scheduled for the last game of that series. And Seattle, right? We talked about them for a minute. They're back to a 6-man rotation after they were saying that Emerson Hancock was going to piggyback Logan Gilbert. I don't know what they're doing. It's a 6-man rotation again. Again, it's tough to predict who they'll face, but if it continues to be a 6-man rotation, they look to be going up against Logan Gilbert, either Bryce Miller or Luis Castillo, Emerson Hancock. Honestly, anybody who's facing Seattle, I think, is going to have a tough matchup because everybody in that rotation is averaging at least 11 a start except for Luis Castillo. Everybody. So that tells me it is a really good rotation outside of Luis Castillo. So why Luis Castillo is still pitching, I don't know. He should be more of a middle relief, long relief role, but he's still in there. Maybe they're just trying to stretch out the innings for some of these guys and try to make a run in the second half. And then we just talked about them last segment here, the Rockies, right? 3 games at Los Angeles against the Dodgers, 4 games San Francisco, 5-5 last 10, similar to the Giants. Really, they're not playing for anything, right? They're not even home these 7 games. They're going to see Eric Lauer. They're going to see Justin Roblowski. Both pretty good, pretty startable. I mean, we talked about Eric Lauer on the show. He looks like a completely different pitcher pitching behind the Dodgers. And then last game for that series, they'll see Roki, who looked horrible, looked good, looks horrible now. I don't know. That might be the only one of the few winnable games they'll have this week. Then they'll see Robbie Ray, Landon Roop, Trevor McDonald, a very sneaky Giants staff. And we'll go over one of those guys later on as well. And then last but not least, I mean, obviously we were talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates, so they have a pretty tough matchup as well, right? They're 3 games at home versus the Braves, 3 games at home versus the Brewers, 5-5 in their last 10.5 out of division, still 4 out of the wild card, not too bad, but they'll see Chris Sale. They'll see Grant Holmes, who's been pitching pretty decent lately. It looks like they're going to be skipping Bryce Elder's start, so that might be a bullpen game for them as well. But Braves have a pretty decent bullpen, so that might not work to their benefit. And then you got Brandon Sproat, you got Shane Durahan, and then, of course, the man, the myth, Jacob Misiorowski, closing out the first half of the season. So pretty tough for the Pirates offense.
Yeah, that offense is going to struggle, I think, this coming week. And really, it's an important week, though, just because it's the last week before the All-Star break. You're going to have a nice week break off after this. So teams want to finish strong. But, I mean, one team that sticks out to me, Doug, on here is the Tampa Bay Rays. When it comes to their bats, it is a little surprising to have them on here. But let me flip this a little bit for you, right? Sure. You got the Yankees and Seattle on there. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen for a second. How bad are they so far this year? It's been terrible to this point. So that's why when I look at Yankees and Seattle, you could almost argue that those are great starts even on the other side for batters for them if they're going to be playing Tampa Bay this week, just because once they get into that bullpen, it kind of goes all haywire, I had to watch my language there for a second. Almost had to cuss there.
We can edit that out now, Mike. Don't worry.
That's right. We could edit that out. We'll keep that one in. We'll keep this one in. But we'll go back to the top of the list, Doug. Arizona Diamondbacks, we talked about them before. Other than Ketel Marte, I just feel like it's kind of been a dumpster fire for them as well as recently. The young guys that are calling up, they're just not really doing much. They've had some injuries so far to this point, and there really hasn't been a lot of good to talk about with the Diamondbacks at this point. So, again, if you don't have them, that's good. But if you got them, be precautioned unless his name's Ketel Marte. I think that's the only one I think I'd probably start out of all those guys that they got on that team at this point. Maybe even Montero. We'll put Montero in there just because catching can be thin at times. But the Athletics, like you said, oh, my God, they lost Tyler Soderstrom, and now they lost Brent Rooker for the whole entire year.
That's right. Yep.
So that's like your 3-4-1-2 punch right there. So they're going to be heavily relying on Nick Kurtz, which obviously he's been great this year to this point. But other than that, some of those other players like, the Jacob Wilsons of the world, Zach Geloff has been pretty decent over there. But they're going to be struggling just because, again, they don't have that support in that lineup as much as they used to before.
And Shea Langoliers is kind of getting a little banged up too.
Haven't heard that name in a minute, right? So he hasn't been producing. So that's a great call out there. The Colorado Rockies, again, just an up and down team. Unless they're not playing at home, it's really hard to trust a lot of them at this point. They do have some young guys that they are calling up. There is one kid, I don't have his name on me, but he did hit I believe, a triple yesterday, and he hit a home run the day before, or vice versa. I think it was triple the day before, and then Saturday night he did hit a home run. So we'll see what he's going to be doing. I'm just keeping a pulse on him. But same thing with Mickey Monick. I mean, like, he's like the only one that's really in that lineup that produces at a decent pace when he is healthy. Tovar really hasn't turned that on yet since getting that extension a couple years ago.
Jake McCarthy looks good, though.
I was just about to say the other guy is only Jake McCarthy, I think. Jake McCarthy still looks pretty good in that lineup. So that's really the only two guys I think right now is Monick and Jake McCarthy that I've trusted.
Hunter Goodman?
Hunter Goodman too, right? All-star, still hitting for pop. But against the Dodgers, against the Giants, yeah, I'd probably stock them, all three of them. I think I'm comfortable.
A lot of strikeouts, yeah.
That's the only thing that comes with it. And hey, that's the power hitters nowadays, right? It's all or nothing. You see it all the time now. But Hunter Goodman, when he's on, he is on. He's great. Yeah. But man, yeah, the Pirates too, same thing. You know, Brandon Lowe taking that step back. Ryan O'Hearn really hasn't been that same guy for that first couple months since he came back from the IL. It was really hard to expect that. You know, Brian Reynolds has been their dude, but other than that, not a lot to see in that lineup as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree on that. I mean, we all kind of saw that coming at some point anyways, that they were going to hit a wall. But it's been a fun story to ride out, at least. If you're, you know, even if you're not a Pittsburgh fan, it's always fun to talk about and see teams like that and the White Sox kind of come up and make themselves known in the baseball world again.
Yeah, they got promise still. Young pitching, there's a future there. There's definitely a future there.
Totally agree. All right, so let me just go over the IL stints for this past week. It is a pretty lengthy list, believe it or not. And then we can talk sleepers and maybe players you might be able to plug into some of those holes. So I got, first and foremost, we just talked about the A's, right? Tyler Soderstrom landed on a 10-day IL. He's got a left hip impingement. So the A's might try to hold him out until after the All-Star break. Same thing, Jacob Wilson. He's on the 10-day IL with that right thumb inflammation. They expect him in the lineup at some point this week, maybe toward the end, maybe the last couple of games, Sunday, Saturday-ish, and have him get a couple at-bats before the season ends. And then, like you said, I mean, DH outfielder Brent Rooker, he's going to be out for the entire year, unfortunately, so he is droppable. Orioles relief pitcher Ryan Helsley, he's on the 15-day IL. He's got that right elbow discomfort. He missed a few months earlier with the same injury, so no timetable set up there. Red Sox starting pitcher Connor Early, he's on the 15-day IL. He's got left elbow inflammation. It was actually deemed a posterior elbow inflammation, which is the best case scenario. So it's possible he could rejoin the rotation not shortly after the All-Star break, which is good news for them. Astros shortstop Jeremy Pena, he's on the 10-day IL. He's got a mild calf strain. They don't expect him back until after the All-Star break. Rangers shortstop Corey Seager, he's back on a 10-day IL. I mean, what is this, fourth time? Jeez. He's got, again, his lower back inflammation. He missed a month earlier with the same injury. So although there's no timetable, I would probably at least say July, end of July, late July would be the earliest. Yankees starting pitcher Carlos Rondon, 15-day IL with a left elbow inflammation. His UCL is intact, but it's labeled heavy inflammation. It sounds like he could be a 4 to 6 weeker, something to just monitor what's going on going forward. Giants third baseman Matt Chapman, he's on the 10-day IL with an abdominal strain. He'll likely miss the rest of the first half. Best case scenario, the end of July. Mariners outfielder JRod, he's on the 7-day IL with a concussion. He could see a few at-bats again at the end of the week. I just wouldn't be surprised, since this is the All-Star break, you just sit him out and just let him get healthy. And then last but not least, Brewers starting pitcher Brandon Woodruff was instantly placed on the IL right after his start yesterday. He was diagnosed with an inflamed labrum on his left shoulder, similar injury that sat him out at least 6 weeks, I think. I was going to say 4 to 6, but it was 6. So if that's still the case, then you're looking at like a late August return for him, which is a shame. But those are some big names, some big people that you drafted pretty early in drafts.
Yeah, pretty interesting stat about Brandon Woodruff I saw yesterday was he actually is in the top 5 whip leaders since joining the league. I mean, when he is healthy, he is very effective. It just sucks to see, Doug. You know, he's just spent so much time on that IL and worked so hard to get back to where he was. So, you know, prayers up.
And his stats were really good. His ERA was like right around a 2. He maybe wasn't giving you the depth as far as like innings pitched, but he was giving you the quality, which is all you could really ask for.
Yeah, I was watching that game last night, and then the outlier was his velocity. The velocity was about 5-6 miles down, and it got caught up immediately. They came out almost instantly, and they took him out. So, again, just a devastating blow. And then same thing with the Athletics too. I mean, you just named off 3 Athletic players that are injured. That you just don't find guys off the street to just replace those type of guys either. So the Athletics are going to have to buckle up and figure out what they're going to need to do.
I mean, that's their 3, 4, and 5 hitter.
Yeah,
that's insane. That is your entire middle of the order lineup that just hit the IL and out for the season. It stinks.
It sucks. It sucks. And then same thing with Corey Seager too. I mean, I think at this point, if you have Corey Seager in a league, 10-team, 12 league, I think you just drop him at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, 4th time on the IL. He's been an IL monster for the last few years. Like, it's just so hard to trust him. And then when he does play, he does strike out a lot. So the prime Corey Seager days is over. We're going to have to close the book on it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. So let's talk about maybe some people you could pick up to fill some of those holes, right? There's 3 of them. They're not too bad. And actually, Josh Bell's been on a tear, and I had him on this list like 3 days ago when I did this. So, I think it was a pretty good call. So I have Mets outfielder Carson Bench, 22% owned. Again, 7 games, right? At the Braves versus the Royals at home versus Boston at home, but not too bad, right? 270 average the last 7 games. He has a home run. He's given you 10 points in the last 3 games combined, which is pretty nice. He has a 9-game hitting streak. So rookie, pretty good matchups for him. I don't mind it. And then Twins. We talked about that lineup. It's a grinder lineup, right? First base DH, Josh Bell. He's only 12% owned. He's got 3 games at home versus the Guardians, 3 games at home versus the Angels. Last 7 games, 286, 4 homers, 30 points. He's got only 7 strikeouts in the last 13 games. He looks to be hitting that stride. Pretty favorable matchup going on for week 15. And then last but not least, Rangers first baseman Jake Berger, 11% owned. 3 games versus the Angels. He'll be at home. 3 games at home versus the Astros. He had a great Toronto series last week. He gave you 17 points in those 3 games. He hit a little of a rough patch against the Guardians, but it wasn't like a crazy amount. I mean, he did have a couple strikeouts, but I do like the matchups. He'll be at home. He'll be in Texas going up against the Angels and the Astros staff. I mean, yeah, it's good to see Hunter Brown back, but he has given up runs. Let's call for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, this list is not the sexiest, right? I mean, the names, we've seen them before. We probably handled them in some capacity throughout our years, right? But like you said, you got to ride those hot hands. Like you said, Josh Bell right now, he's playing really good baseball. And then you could even make the argument for Cody Clemens, too. I feel like he's been hitting the ball pretty well as well for Minnesota. Like you said, they've been playing really good baseball. And it was against the Yankees, too, this past week. So impressive stuff there. But Josh Bell, I'll take a flyer on. Same thing with Jake Berger. I feel like I've been circling around him for like the last few weeks just because, again, Texas is playing really good baseball. And you got to figure someone's going to have to be in that lineup to do something for him. He's going to be batting in that 3-4 hole. He's going to have a lot of opportunity for them to score runs, knock in runs. And, again, we have injuries that happen. Like we just talked about Tyler Soderstrom, and that was your first baseman. Maybe a Jake Berger's out there, and you just go grab him, and maybe it's just a set and forget type for the next couple of weeks or so until Soderstrom, recovers from his injury. That's going to take him a few weeks. So, and then Carson Bench, I mean, again, young guy, right? Getting his feet wet still, playing every day in New York. And I think he's starting to turn a corner a little bit. I still think he's playing pretty good baseball. And he could be a second-half monster, too, for the Mets if they decide to pick it up or not. We know how bad they've been so far to this point. But a Carson Bench could definitely be one of those guys that can be an outliner in the second half that can actually produce and score runs and knock guys in. I think that's a pretty good pick right there as well.
Yeah, and you make a great point. Like, these aren't guys you're going to pick up and you're going to keep for the rest of the year. These are just guys that are going to come in and fill a hole for you and try to at least mitigate the loss of a Tyler Soderstrom. Yeah, they're not meant to be kept for months or for the rest of the year. They're just placekeepers that, hey, you know what, they're They have a favorable matchup. They're playing pretty well. Why don't I pick them up and at least fill that hole while I decide what I want to do going forward for the next week if it's a weekly league? If you can maybe put in a Josh Bell for now and then try to make a trade because you have an entire week to do that. So he's just going to buy you time. They're streamers. That's exactly what a streamer is.
100%. No, you nailed it. That was exactly well said.
I appreciate that. I do that once in a while. And then last but not least here, let's look at the pitching side. And we talked about Eric Lauer. We're going to talk about him and go over some of his numbers in a second. But Giants starting pitcher Landon Roop is 30% owned. Monday, he's at home both starts. We talked about he's going to be playing the Rockies at home on Saturday. He'll be playing a Toronto team that kind of looks like they're in a free fall at home on Monday. Not a bad overall season, not a great. He's giving you 8.3 a start. I mean, he's 5-8, 89 innings pitched. He does have 99 strikeouts, a 4.5 ERA. I mean, he started the year red hot. He at one point won 4 starts in a row. He's kind of cooled, 0-7 in his last 11. But in those starts, he's given up 2 earned or less in 6 of those. So in 6 of the 11 starts, he's given up 2 earned or less. So that might his offense is really more of the issue than really him, right? Still, when he does get you the loss, they aren't terrible since the strikeouts are there over a batter an inning. He's got 62 strikeouts in his last 53 innings in those 11 starts. So he's at home. The Giants offense doesn't look horrible now. It looks kind of like a major league offense these last few weeks. So I do like him. I think they maintain, and he should be able to get at least 1 win out of that if it's a weekly league. Second one, I always like to throw a relief starting pitcher in these just because it's always fun to throw one if you have 2 spots for relief pitcher. Guardians relief starting pitcher Joey Cantillo, 23% owned. Tuesday, yes, he's playing against that red-hot Twins team we talked about. Sunday, he's playing against Miami. They're both away. But listen to the year, right? 7-3, 91 innings pitched, 89 strikeouts, a 3.8 ERA, 9.4 a start, 3-0 in his last 4. Pitched a gem in Houston against the Astros. In Houston, 8 innings, 1 earned, 9 strikeouts. Then goes to Seattle, 6 innings, 1 earned, 9 strikeouts. I mean, you could make the case this guy should be 4-0. He hasn't given up more than 2 earned in any of those starts, and any 4 of them. I really do like him in that relief role spot. I think he should be able to get you some really good positive points this upcoming week with those matchups. And then again, last but not least, another relief starting pitcher, Eric Lauer for the Dodgers, 4.4% owned. Monday at home versus the Rockies, 4-5 on the year. 70 innings pitched, 44 strikeouts, a 4.8 ERA. He's only giving you 4.6 a start. But hold on a second. Absolutely horrible numbers on the year. I understand that. However, since being traded to the Dodgers from the Blue Jays, this is when you're like, oh, wow, he must have been so bad because his numbers with the Dodgers are actually pretty good. 3-0 in his last 6 starts, 34 innings pitched, 18 strikeouts, 11 earned. He's averaging 11.41 points a start since going to the Dodgers, 11 points at least. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned in any of his starts being with the Dodgers. He's playing at home against the Rockies. I think the trend continues. I do like the start. He's only 4% owned. Why not pick him up, throw him in that relief eligible spot? And, I mean, that offense will be able to bail him out and give him a win, even if he does give up a couple runs. But he hasn't given up more than 3 any start.
Yeah, it's been pretty impressive since he's gotten to L.A., right? I started him this week in the league. He went 6 innings, 3 earned, I think 3 Ks, got me the win. I mean, that's a quality start win right there. That's 10 points plus 5, plus the strikeouts, 8. Like, you're getting some pretty good points from a guy. And look, these 3 guys that are on this list, they're spot starters. You're not going to probably keep them, like you said, long-term, same with the hitters. But these guys are kind of a weekly start. And like you said, you got a Joey Cantillo in here that's got 2 starts, who's been pitching pretty well. Sometimes you just want to ride that hot hand out. The capability of these Cleveland pitchers are through the roof. They do have really good young pitching, and Joey's definitely one of those guys going into the season. And it looks like he's starting to really find his feet. Like you said, he could have been 4-0 his last 4 starts. Really just finding his stride and being a strikeout pitcher on top of that as well. So a lot of fantasy appeal there. And then Landon Rope, again, it's hit or miss sometimes. I feel like with the Brandon Landon Rope here. We saw him pitch last week. He was kind of a little rocky, but again, with the matchups coming up this week against Toronto, against the Rockies, if you did have like a Carlos Rendon that went down, you can get a guy like this to come in for a week, give you a couple starts, and then again, we're going to have the All-Star break coming up. So again, you might not even have these guys very long term. It could just be for this coming week, and then we say, okay, we're done with you because X, Y, and Z is coming back to the rotation. So, but yeah, I think out of these three, who would like to pick up first out of these three?
Oh, Joey.
Joey, I think, is the right answer, right?
Yeah. I mean, if he was a 1 start instead of a 2, then it would be kind of a coin flip between him and Eric Lauer. I mean, if it was only 1 start, and let's just say he was only pitching at the Twins against Minnesota, maybe I'd go with Eric Lauer just because the Rockies, I think he's going up against like Kyle Freeland or something like that. So, I mean, I feel like the Dodgers are going to score like, 10 runs and just give him, even if he does end up getting smashed, he'll still get a win just because of the run support. Joey and the Guardians, that run support is tough to come by sometimes. So I don't know. I would sway in Eric Lauer's favor, but 2 starts, you give me Joey Cantillo in the weekly league.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. No, yeah, the run support in Cleveland's been a little rough. Kate Smith owners probably not too happy lately. Not going to lie to you. So.
All right, let's just talk some updates here, and then we'll let you on your way for the rest of the week. All right, Guardians third base DH Jose Ramirez. He had his stitches removed from his left hand Tuesday. He could begin swinging a bat this week. He should be on pace for the end of July to come back to the lineup. Here's a tough one. You got Royals starting pitcher Cole Ragans. He underwent that UCL repair surgery on his elbow. He's out for the next 12 months. He's officially droppable. What a waste of a 4th or 5th round pick for some of you guys. That's tough to see. White Sox first third baseman Murakami. He should begin a rehab assignment at the end of this week or early next week. So we should be a candidate to return, shortly after the All-Star break. So something to keep hope for, and hopefully he continues the trend of what he was doing before he got hurt and hitting home runs. Outfielder DH Mike Trout with the Angels. He's looking to be returning to the lineup right after the All-Star break. And then last but not least, we talked about Brent Rooker. He had surgery to repair that cartilage tear in his left knee. He will be out for the rest of the year, and he is officially droppable.
Yeah, tough news about Cole Ragans. I mean, obviously, he was drafted pretty high, 5th, 6th round, like you said, even a 4th round in some leagues. I mean, just disaster, absolute disaster. But it's great to hear Jose Ramirez is coming on his way back. That's huge for baseball, just in general. Top 5 player when he's out there, just great to see. And then, like you said, Brent Rooker obviously having that injury, just pretty devastating. That's too bad because he's been pretty consistent these last few years too, about score 100, about 400 points. Being around the top 10 outfielder for sure. So just a tough blow, another tough blow for them.
All right, yeah, I totally agree. So that is it for us, man. For Mikey V, I'm Doug. This is Bourbon and Ball. Give us a like, subscribe. FSAN, their baseball side, their football side. They do everything now, believe it or not. As anything related to fantasy, FSAN is your destination. Man, I should copyright that. And, of course, we are live on Fridays, every Friday at 8 p.m., taking questions, going over hot hitters, cold hitters, and some really good buy low, sell high candidates. So don't forget to tune in, come in, ask a couple questions, say hi, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Just come in. So, again, we'll see you next week. Hopefully, you guys, we should give you the right information to help set you and have a successful week in fantasy this week. So we will see you again next week. Good luck.